And I want you to know I will be, and I will continue to be the voice for all those victims that cannot stand in front of you. So sleep on that, buddy. Sleep on that. Because I couldn't sleep last night thinking about all this shit. I didn't get my rest, so hopefully you can get yours. Sitting there. I really hope you find your peace, buddy.
We are about to watch the victim impact hearing for this cockroach, this monster who has a trail of victims going back decades. Now, what a victim impact statement is in Utah is really it's a beautiful thing that they offer that we have not seen any other state offer, and that is to give the victims, the survivors, an opportunity to make a statement, even though it will be years before this roach has parole eligibility. So this entire process is put here only if the survivors ask for it, and it's put here for them to speak, to have their words heard by all of us. Now, this statement, these statements, they are some of the most earth-shattering that we have heard, the most raw. And what I love about it, just one of the things I love about it, is that the board interviewer, he lets her say her piece. Now, we have a lot of information on this case, including original police reports. So we'll go through that in the unpacking. Although really, the survivors, they say all that needs to be said. But with that, let's jump in.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Greg Johnson, a member of the Board of Pardons and Parole. And are you Brett Leonard Orton?
Yes, sir.
Okay, offender number 88855?
Yes, sir.
All right. To start with, I just want to be clear that today is not a pardon hearing. It's not a parole hearing. It's a victim impact hearing.
Okay.
And I'll explain how we got to this point and what's expected today in just a minute.
Okay.
If you have questions as we go along, feel free to ask, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. So to start with, these hearings are open to the public and live streamed as well. So there may be people observing online.
Okay.
Did you receive at least 7 days notice of this hearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you receive your disclosure, your blue packet?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we disclose the information that we may be considering or basing a decision on. We disclose that so that you can respond to it, so that you can make corrections or ask questions about it.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions or concerns about your disclosure?
No, sir.
Okay. And sometimes that's called the blue packet.
Yes.
All right. And let me explain a little bit about why we're here, how we got to this point. So you were convicted of 2 first-degree felonies. The sentence is 30 years to life. On some documents, it shows 100 years or 200 years. That's just a numerical figure. It's up to life. The board has the obligation to consider you for parole at some point during that range. The sentence was with the possibility of parole. And to do that, we start with the sentencing guideline, which in your case is May of 2048. Is that what you understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The board can find aggravating or mitigating factors to go above or below the guideline. Aggravating factors can include, your behavior, disciplinaries, things like that. Mitigating could include program completion, good behavior, things like that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the board sets original hearings. Your original hearing is set for February of 2034. It was set that way by rule That's about 15 years into your sentence. So that'll be your original hearing.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions about your sentence?
No.
Okay. All right. And according to rule, if the original hearing is set more than 3 years away, a survivor could request a victim impact hearing, which is why we're here today. So a victim impact hearing is a chance for a person to put their statement on the record. You'll have a chance to respond to anything that's said, but they can put that statement on the record for the future board to consider. Also, and I'm saying this because there may be other survivors observing online, but they can participate in whatever way they're most comfortable with. Some people choose to testify at a hearing, which is fine. Others choose to submit things in writing. They feel more comfortable with that. And others just prefer to observe. So whatever way they would like to participate in the hearing or in the parole process is fine. And that includes testifying at any other hearing as well. So even if they testify today, they can still testify again, still submit things in writing, because obviously impacts can be lifelong and there may be new things that they want the board to understand.
Mhm.
Okay. So again, that's why we're here. We'll take time to hear from one of the survivors and give you a chance to respond. And I'll also check back with you at the end and see if you have any questions. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's go ahead and get you sworn in. Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear to tell the truth and be accurate in today's proceeding?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. You can put your hand down. So, Ms. I understand that you would like to address us today. Would you please come to that microphone, and I'll ask you to state your name, and we'll need to swear you in when you get there. You can sit down. Would you, sorry.
Been her advocate and attorney.
Yes, that's just fine. And go ahead and take a minute or take your time. It's okay. It's okay. I'll give you a minute before we swear you in, okay?
So would you want to hear again? Sorry, my name.
Okay, could you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear to tell the truth and be accurate in today's proceeding?
I do.
Thank you. You can put your hand down. Please state your name for the record. Okay. Go ahead and share what you'd like us to understand.
My name is Mary. I'm 32 years old. My date of birth is 92. I reside in Utah. I was raised by and currently live with my mother. I also live with my daughter, Lyra, who's 6 years old, my long-term partner, and I have two sisters who lived with me while growing up, one older and one younger. My biological mother and father divorced when us children were young. I was approximately 5 years old, and this is my story. After my parents divorced, Brett Orton, my mother's boyfriend, moved in with us. My father had been and continued to be an addict and was in and out of our life the majority of our lives. All I ever wanted was a father to be there and to love my sisters and me and treat my mom good. And Brett made it known that he was going to be our protector and love us girls like the children he never had. At first, it seemed to be good because Brett would spoil us, take us camping, do lots of fun stuff with us like a father figure should. However, in retrospect, I since realized he was grooming us. me and my sisters to be just the way he wanted, to have control over us. We have no idea that Brett was a master manipulator and sex addict till the first night he came into my room. I was approximately 5 years old, and he put his hands over my mouth and touched me inappropriately. He continued touching me nightly when my mom would go to sleep. I have the most disturbing memory of me being 5 or 6 and Brett telling me he stole his my neighbor's dildo. It was white. He made me stick it in his butt. Next thing I knew, he shat all over. I cried the whole time. And still to this day, I can never get clean enough. I have thousands of separate memories of abuse. He sexually abused me thousands of times by age 12. It was at age 12 that the defendant told me he was going to teach me to be a girlfriend for boys. I thought that all fathers did this. By age 12, Brett was also making me and my cousins do sexual stuff to each other and do stuff to him as well. At this point, my father lived in Indiana and my mother was working full-time to take care of us and put a roof over our head. So Brett was with us girls most of the time. During the day, that's when he started having oral sex and making me do it back to him thousands of times. Brett would also make serious threats to kill my family, kill me, burn down our house, or just make me disappear if I were to tell. I really believed this man, considering what I had witnessed him do when he did not get his way. He would also regularly mentally abuse me and convince me that everything was my fault. I basically was a confused, lost little girl. I have vivid memories of Brett raping me in the bathroom and my sister Amber walking in. I was crying and scared. Brett would always cover it up somehow. The raping behavior happened routinely. Brett would typically drug me and my sisters and our friends too. He would smoke pot with us. He would always tell us this black tar heroin looking stuff on top and make us think it was resin. And in my heart of hearts, I know it was not just THC. My therapist, Paula Fiat, would like you to know that I'm one of the most severe cases of abuse she's ever had to deal with, because he went so far as grooming me to gain my trust before he started to abuse me. He would buy us toys and candy and take us camping, play the father act, and then he knew I trusted him fully, and then he slowly began touching me inappropriate. At night, my mother would go to sleep, or in the winter when he was off work, he would come get me out of my room in the middle of the night and take me to the basement or out to the shed in the backyard. And that is when he would fully rape me. Penetration. I was so young, I didn't know that what he was doing to me was wrong. But by then, he started regularly adding alcohol and marijuana to the sexual abuse manipulation process. So he's also responsible for giving minors drugs and alcohol. Brett Orton made me lose respect for myself and taught me to think that that you have sex for money. I knew that was how some people lived. So I started to think it was normal to live this way. I grew up having no respect for myself because this monster constantly used me, had no respect for me. He's extremely manipulative, and I have watched him get out of trouble with authority figures many times. For example, he would take my phone, send text messages to his own phone saying things such as, "Do you want to have sex for money?" Then he would threaten to show people, and as if I were asking for the abuse. I have so many bad memories, but I have also lost so much time, and I have many blurred memories, maybe from being drugged for so long, I'm not sure. In addition, I cannot have any more children. I was lucky to conceive my daughter, as his sexual abuse of me caused permanent damages to my uterus. Brett's horrific sexual abuse of me ruined any chances of me having another child, and I'm pissed. I'm pissed. My insides are so messed up. I almost hemorrhaged to death. I have a daughter to care for now, and every legal court situation takes a toll on my health. I want to be able to stay alive and be a good mother for my child. If he were to ever get released, I don't think I could handle it, and it's not fair to me or my child. I deserve the chance to repair the damage he has done to me, and I deserve the chance to be a good mother to my child. All I know is that life has been very messed up because of this monster. He took the soul of me as a young girl I will never get back. I could go on for days about how horrible this man is, but I think you can start to understand how evil he is. Brett raped and molested me from a young child till I was 23, 18 years.
I ran away from my own home many times to escape him and ended up getting into worse situations that I thought were all my fault because most of my life I was abused. I thought that was how the world worked. When I would run away or move away, I always would have to call my grandma and grandpa to save me. And he's not here anymore. This would eventually end up back home and into the life of hell. If Brett didn't get his way, he would manipulate my mom to get us kicked out or grounded or our phones taken away. He was mentally and emotionally abusive. I was literally a life of hell. I now suffer from PTSD, depression, anxiety, and eating disorder. I have anxiety about putting things into my mouth, such as food, because of all the bad things Brett did to me and had me put in my mouth, which eventually resulted to me being on a feeding tube to save my life. I'm often so anxious about this court situations, fearing he could get out, that I struggle to be able to eat. I feel too sick. Before the feeding tube, at one point, my weight fell to 70 pounds. So my therapist was concerned for my health and had my medical doctor put me on a feeding tube. Although my therapist has worked with me to process and overcome many of the traumatic experiences with Brett, I know I will not be able to rest if he ever gets released. I would feel better off dead. Dead. I'm serious. And I don't deserve that. I cannot handle the thought of him being free. I would not be able to progress in my recovery knowing he is out in society. Board member, I want you to know this man is not safe in society. He is manipulative of others, especially young children. As I relied previously, this man groomed me from a young age using any necessary means, including emotional manipulation, fun activities, money, drugs, lies, etc. I endured all of it. The abuse from the age of 5 till age 23, 18 years, and this man is still not taking accountability for all the pain and damage he caused me and many, many others. The abuse he inflicted upon me did not end when he was finally caught either. I have suffered PTSD to high anxiety with panic attacks, severe depression with suicidal ideation. The constant state and dreaded fear I lived through all those years has taken a toll on my mind and body. My life in general. I battled several other ongoing stresses, including my medical conditions, as I have been trying to also attempt to heal from the trauma with therapy. Brett has a cruel and sexual perverted mind, and I can say that with confidence. The types of sexual abuse Brett Orton put me through are horrific and abnormal. He enjoyed it. As a young girl without a father around, he built my trust and then he used it to exploit me and damaged me to the point that I lived in fear, shame, and confusion. He didn't care about me or my sisters or anyone else in that matter of fact, just himself. The reality is that I messed out on a normal childhood. I have difficulty forming healthy relationships. I struggle to trust anyone, and I fear for my safety when I shouldn't have to live in fear. I experience frequent flashbacks, nightmares, and overwhelming anxiety, which make it difficult to function in my daily life. I've been diagnosed with several trauma-related disorders, anxiety, eating disorders, syncope, constant flight or flight, stomach problems, suicidal ideation, and most recently, I've been experiencing pass outs, terrible stomach problems. I've spent countless hours in therapy trying to heal the damage he has done. I live every day facing the fears and dealing with the pain, emotionally and physically, that Brett created. Once Brett actually was put in prison, I felt I was able to breathe. But a part of me still fears that once again he will manipulate authorities and find a way out of his crimes. The longer he stays in prison, the more I will still feel safe to confront the past trauma. I finally am making some progress and finding that I've gained strength through surviving all the adversity. However, if he were allowed to be out of prison, I don't know if I would be able to live in fear. I know this man well, and I know what he is capable of doing to me and others. I fear for my safety and others. I respectfully and sincerely ask the board to please deny any parole for Brett Orton. He knew what he was doing and the damage he was inflicting for an extended period of 18 years of my life, my sister's life, and many, many others that I could name. The man only cares about himself and fulfilling his twisted sexual needs. He has not demonstrated genuine remorse, taken accountability, or made any stride towards correcting his unhealthy mind, thereby displaying more reasons he should not be paroled. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my story and speak on behalf of the person I was during all those years of abuse, as well as the person I am becoming today. I hope this impact statement helps the board members understand the magnitude of the decision, considering the extent of lasting harm that he has caused. And I want you to know I will be, and I will continue to be the voice for all those victims that cannot stand in front of you. So sleep on that, buddy. Sleep on that. Because I couldn't sleep last night thinking about all this shit. I didn't get my rest, so hopefully you can get yours. Sitting there. I really hope you find your peace, buddy. Because I found mine, and it ain't with you. You're dead to me, you piece of shit. You're dead. I hate you. I fucking hate you. That's all I have to say today. You rotten hell. Thanks for everything you've done to me. I really hope you enjoyed it. So you can rot like I have all those years. You can rot. You hear me? Rot hell.
I feel like I might be able to say a few words.
Mr. Leonard, is that you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm so proud of you.
Me too.
All right.
So proud of you.
I'm proud of you too.
You tell him where the bear shits in the woods.
Okay. Mr. Lamb,
Yeah.
if you'd like to speak, that's certainly fine. I need to swear you in as well. Would you raise your right hand, please?
Yes, sir.
Do you swear to tell the truth and be accurate in today's proceeding?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And please state your name for the record.
My name is Sam,
Okay.
nephew to Brett Leonard Orton.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Lamb. What would you like us to know?
I don't know where to start. I didn't write anything like I did. I just let me start with I couldn't sleep last night either. You know? And I don't know if I doubt he'll ever understand the repercussions of his actions. I doubt he will. That's why I'm here. I don't like to say that I feel like he fucked my life up because I know I've made some bad choices myself, but coming to understand why I've made some of those choices always comes back to this man. This man. Almost a similar story. Mine died dad when I was 4. And from that point on, I didn't know who to look up to. I when you lose your father, you're looking for fatherly advice. My mom, she was way depressed from that. She wasn't there like she could have been, and that's not her fault, but that hurt me a lot losing him. And it hurt me a lot more putting my trust in Brett because I looked up to him for a long time when I was a kid. And I spent a lot of time with him, and I can definitely talk about this man's character because I was confused for a long time myself. I remember memories of this guy passing high schools and doing his best to fucking, you know, to see which ones were wearing the least clothes, and always just talking about virgin pussy is the best, and you know, and just talking about children in the sickest ways, and me not even fucking realizing how disgusting this motherfucker is, you know. I remember one memory, you know, that I can talk about, and it's hard to, you know, where we were manipulated into doing some with each other and recording it. and him enjoying it, not exactly as she said it. No, I still question why? Why the fuck? And I'll never understand. I don't care to, but I've been doing way better in my life in the last 7 months. And then hearing this, about, I don't know what to say. I don't think he should ever get out either. And yes, I hate this man. My relationships have been hard to keep because of the way that he tried to raise me. I remember an instance of him trying to offer girls money for sex and then turning them down, freaking out. I was there for a bunch of that. He made it seem cool. There was times that he made me and my cousin Drew go fucking, we're teenagers, and we thought it was cool to go fucking jump fences, go steal shit for this guy in the middle of the night. Called them Black Ops missions. It's not just that he has a little illness, it's that he's cold, calculated, very manipulative. It looks like he's doing good. It's because he wants you to think that, and that's why nobody fucking believed us. I lost half my family members. I had to mourn the loss of my Aunt Tina because of turning this guy in. I had to, there's people that that I lost because I finally said, hey, this guy up, And yeah, maybe I hit it well too, but that's because we were kids. We didn't understand. What I'm trying to say is, I've been dealing with this ever since I was probably like 7 to 9 years old, and I don't remember any memories before that either. I'm sure I was hanging out with him since my dad died. But I've just barely started getting into therapy a few months ago and understanding exactly the damage that was done, but I don't know. It'll be better worded in the future. You fuck everything up. You knew it wasn't okay. I have kids. I would never. I'll never understand why you did, but you need to stay there. Try to find your fucking happiness in there, but you need to stay there. I don't care if you're sorry. I'll show up every time. And thank you for letting me talk. I don't know what else to say. And I'm sorry for getting upset. I really wanted to just keep my calm and try to educate a little bit more on his character. And I know I can. There's a lot I've been thinking about the last few weeks, but I have a hard time getting stuff done because of the fucking anxiety. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lamb. Those were the two people that I had on the list to speak. Again, anybody's welcome to submit letters. And again, any other hearings we have in the future, you can speak at those as well, or it's completely your choice, whatever you're comfortable with. But Mr. Orton, what is your response to this?
It's hard for me to respond to it, except for, I'm sorry for the shit that I'd done. I made some pretty horrible mistakes. I will suffer in here for it. I didn't mean to harm anybody or hurt anybody, but I did. And I can never take it back. I can never help you. I can never fix anything that I've done wrong. All I can say is I'm sorry. It's the best I can do. I can't fix anything. You know, I feel your guys' pain. I've had a lot of time to sit and just think to myself, and I truly am sorry, whether y'all believe me or not. I am sorry. Because I've lost everything too. My freedom, my family. I've lost a sister since I've been here. I'll probably lose my brother being here that I'll never see again. I know that don't mean nothing because it's my fault. All I can hope is that with what you guys are doing out there, it will help you guys. Because I'm doing it in here. You may not think I am. You may not know that I am. But I have been doing programming in here, which you may not think I have been, but I have been. I'm trying to change who I was and how I was to be a better person for everyone. It's not easy recognizing the faults and the mistakes that you've made in life. And I've made a lot of them in my time. And if I could take it all back just to save the hearts of people, of these folks, I would do it in a heartbeat. But I cannot do that. And for that, I feel sorry for me and for them because they have to suffer the most. I'm in here, I have to suffer with the day-to-day things in here, but I don't have to suffer with life. Because life is what it is in here for us, how we make it as inmates. A lot of people don't know what it's like in here on the outs, but it's not easy. And I've been down, started my 7th year now. And whatever it may be, it may be. The board don't let me out, they don't let me out. But hopefully they'll see that I've tried to redeem myself from the person I was. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but to me, to all, and to the other ones, my heart goes out to you for my mistakes. And if I could make it better for you guys, I would. I really would. But I can't. All I can do is the time that you guys give me in here and try to change myself, like I said. That's it. That's all I can do. That's all I've got to say.
Okay. Do you have any questions for me?
No, sir.
All right. So again, this hearing has just been about victim impact. It's not considering pardoning or parole. The board will issue an order, which really just marks that we had this hearing. That'll be on our website, probably in about 2 weeks. And we'll send you a copy of that.
Yes, sir.
But again, your original hearing is February 2034, and we're still have that guideline of 2048.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any final comments?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you. That concludes our hearing.
What a cockroach. After all of that, after one of the most emotional, raw, heart-wrenching statements by victims who he had been victimizing since they were toddlers, and he says something like that with no feeling, no emotion, no empathy. That tissue box was not touched a single time. And what's he say? He manages to make it all about himself. I'm sorry. I've made pretty horrible mistakes. I will suffer in here for it. I didn't mean to harm anybody or hurt anybody, but I did. I can never take it back. If I would fix it. It's like You would think, what are you just like, it's unreal. But we know this. We've seen this so many times. These roaches, they are monsters. They are every definition of it. Evil. I don't know, is the word psychopathic, psychotic, narcissist, of course, but I mean, it's more than that. He likes children. He likes control. This is his life passion. And this, we only heard from 2 of the victims. I like how Utah calls them survivors. I like how Utah and this board interviewer allowed them to say everything they wanted to say and to say it at the monster. In Louisiana and Connecticut, they would actually interrupt them. Speak to us. Speak to the board, please. You know, for all the faults that Utah has, just the idea that they allowed them to say what they needed to say, and you could tell like there's just so much more empathy and compassion in the facial expressions of the board member, something that roach can never feel. And it starts off with the woman, the survivor, and then you could see them how she gave the courage to his nephew to stand up, and then how his voice changed and grew with strength over time as he was speaking. And I thought what they said was just so perfect, so raw, so real. And again, this is in the initial indictment, which would happen December 19, 2018. They go through here. December 19, 2018, a Leighton man had been booked in jail on suspicion of 16 crimes against 6 different children. And they will list 6 children. Remember, the indictments are always like the most clear, the most obvious, the most irrefutable. You start with, that's why so often we see indictments that, you know, this is only, of course, I think we have to assume that there's hundreds. How many victims do you think? So, who turned 44 on Sunday, was booked, a nice birthday present, Davis County Jail on suspicion of 6 counts of sodomy, 4 counts of aggravated SA, 2 counts of SA, 4 counts of forcible sodomy. I never understand how they come up with just these counts and that counts. I guess it's in the, I don't know. All charges are related to the events alleged to have happened between 2001 and 2015. And by the way, the idea that, and we have confirmed this. And I want to thank Elizabeth for confirming this. And you guys have seen her come on this show. If you haven't, I'll put a link to it in the description. And she's written a book that all of you should check out. It made me cry 3 times. But she's the investigator of the CPS investigators. And she verified that there were CPS cases between 1999 and 2004. But nothing came of them. And all of this should have stopped. It could have stopped. It could have been stopped. But just things, it's just children. Okay, now we're going to go through the appeal, and I'm going to call out the lackluster effort to be kind of the DAs in this case, because you see, the DA, when they came to this plea agreement, they did not even ask the judge for the maximum allowed in legislation. No, they actually asked for just 10 years to life, 2 counts, just 2 counts to run consecutive, which would have given him a maximum of 20 if the judge had agreed to it. And the judge was so disgusted that he gave the maximum allowed. He upgraded it to 2 15 years consecutive, 30 years. Okay. So if the judge had not had a little bit of common sense, he would have been getting out 10 years earlier. He'd be having his parole hearing possibly earlier. Now, again, his parole hearing is in 2034, which is in 9 years. To think that the victims and survivors have to already at some point in looking at that calendar are going to have to start bugging out. The guideline date is 2048, which is 50 years. But we have seen that guideline date, it's not glue. There are ways that you can get out before then, and that's what's terrifying about this. And that's where we've seen that the sentencing guidelines are just a bunch of gimmicks. But let me show you. This is what he's initially charged with, right? 5 counts of and they agreed to dismiss all these charges and just bring 2 charges. Now, the state agrees that the sentencing counsel will argue that this is what, after they agree in it, this is what they agree they're going to bring in front of the judge. The state agrees that at sentencing, the Roach's counsel will argue that the sentence on the first-degree felonies be 6 years to life. This is what the Roach is asking for, 6 years. While the state will argue for a sentence of 10 to life. The state said, no, 6 is too lenient. We're going to say 10. We want 4 more years each. Now, they're going to be consecutive, so it's either going to be 12 years or 20 years. The state further agrees that it will not argue for the 15 to life. They said, we will not ask for the maximum, but the victims will be allowed to argue for whatever sentence they desire. Both sides agreed that each can argue their prospective positions regarding concurrent or consecutive. So even at this point, they are making a deal with the devil. The DA is agreeing with the defense, the cockroach. We're going to ask for 10. You'll ask for 6. Concurrent and consecutive will be up in the air. Oh, and the victims, they can ask whatever they want. Okay. That's the DA. They have a royal flush slam dunk case with abuse going back more than 2 decades with countless victims, and they take the easy way out. Okay. And they ask for not even the maximum amount of time. Now, at sentencing, the Roach counsel acknowledged that the court had the discretion to impose a prison sentence of 6 years to life. Can you imagine legislation allows 6 years? Okay. 10 years to life or 15 years to life. But counsel noted that through negotiation with the state, we were negotiating with the state here, the DA, right? The really protectors of children. The state said, they said that they agreed that 15 to life would not be argued. They don't want 15 to life. So, given this agreement, counsel urged the court, dear judge, your honor, consider concurrent of 6 years to life for the 2 felony charges, noting that my Roach client has taken responsibility for his morally reprehensible actions. Can you imagine being a defense attorney actually having the audacity to say, just give him 6 years. 6 years. Now, after counsel spoke, the district court asked for clarification on the mandatory length. And so the judge said, wait a minute. What? Let me get clarification on the legislation. Reading the relevant code actions, the court wondered whether the mandatory sentence was 25 years to life. Not, that would be mandatory. Given the statute, the court asked if there had been stipulation as part of the plea agreement that this was not a 25 life sentence. The judge was like, wait a minute. My understanding of Utah Code 7654031-whatever is that I have to give a minimum of 25 years. No. The parties clarified with the judge that there had been a change in the sentencing statute in 2008. Well, I mean, anyone with a brain cell might say, wait a minute, these charges weren't even brought until like 2018. What are they saying 2008? What do you mean? I mean, we should give the legislative credit. The lawmakers in Utah all of a sudden realize, oh my God, we need more severe sentencing for children. The maximum, but no. See, this pathetic DA, they actually argue with the judge that, see, we're not bringing charges for all the offenses of 10 years, a full decade of offenses. No. Our charges are only being brought before this legislation update. So again, you have the DA arguing to get a lighter sentence because they are picking the charges which allows them to get a lighter sentence. Think about that. Let that sink in. They are literally manipulating everybody, gaslighting everyone, and fighting to get a legal loophole to give a minimum sentence to this roach. The DA, not the defense. And I don't think that this is a legal argument because they could have charged him for the offenses that he committed after 2008, but they're not choosing to. They are choosing only to charge him for the ones before. Just think about that. So let me go on. Given the statute, the court asked, there had been a stipulation part of the agreement that this was not a 25 to life case. The parties clarified that there had been a change in the sentencing statute in 2008, increasing the mandatory minimum of 25 to life. Act February 14, 2008, blah, blah, blah. Utah laws 1288, 1290, because the Roach's offenses all occurred before that sentencing amendment, the parties clarified that he was subject to 6, 10, or 15 minimum a sentence for the rubric, and that was not subject to 25-year minimum. And again, let me just point out again, what they are saying is that the crimes all occurred before the sentencing amendment. We know that this is not true. He was committing crimes. He didn't stop for 10 years and all of a sudden he was. So they knowingly chose to charge him for charges before this date. And that is sick. And I want to call him out on that. Now, the prosecutor then proceeded to ask the court to impose sentences of 10 years to life, not the maximum 15, 10, to run consecutively. At least it said consecutive. Noting that the sentence was reasonable due to the number of victims. It's reasonable, Your Honor, and that the extreme gravity of these circumstances. The prosecutor supported his argument for 10-year minimum sentence to run consecutive by noting, Your Honor, as we've already discussed today, the legislator has left that type of actions are 25 to life. But that was after 2008. But I think it's probative in their thinking of how serious the offenses are. And again, I want you to point out, he's gaslighting. He's wanting his cake and eating it too. He's being two-faced. He's arguing that the judge should give 10 years, not the maximum of 15. And he's saying that because legislator realized that they updated their law. But again, he didn't bring charges after. Do you get it? This is sick, in my opinion. Thereafter, Beth and Ann addressed the court in detail the abuse that he inflicted upon them and continued to negatively affect their lives. Now the victims are asking, the survivors are saying, please, judge, can you give us 15-year minimum sentence each? And the victim advocate, God bless their soul, after reviewing the severity of Orton's abuse of the victim, noted that the legislator in 2008, 13 years ago before this, knew that the 6 to 10 or 15 for this kind of activity against our most precious. The legislator in 2008 had an epiphany. They realized that 6 years, 10 years, or even 15 years for this kind of activity against our most precious amongst us, our children, is not enough. This is what the victim's advocate says to the judge. And they have moved it to 25 to life. Having made that point, the victim advocate asked the court to impose consecutive sentences of 15 to life. Now the defense has a rebuttal. The Roach's defense says in his rebuttal, I take issue with the fact that it's been represented, albeit not directly, but I think that indirectly, that because the statute has changed and the legislator now sees these type of crimes against our most precious, he didn't say that, crimes as 25 years to life, that in some ways gives Your Honor incentive to give the top end here on a 6 to 10 or 15, and that simply isn't and should not be applied in this case. Now the court sentenced Orton, the Roach, to serve the term of 15 years to life. He took the maximum allowed in the plea deal. Not what the DA was asking, but what the victims and the victim advocate asked. The judge said, The judge noted that Orton's offenses had been the worst crime he had seen so far in his just 3 years, but he had seen so far in his 3 years on the bench. He told Orton that the reason that the sentences was in this heinous nature, for the sentences was his heinous nature of the crimes, and that it would not be in the interest of justice. It would not be in the interest of justice to impose any sentence other than the maximum, especially given the facts of the case and the impact that this roach abuse had on the victims. The judge also noted that the sentence would allow the roach to get the help that he obviously needs. And again, I'm going to point out that the DA did not ask for the maximum, and the judge said, what the? I am going to give it. And I can see this as like a Judge Stephen moment, a Judge Boyd moment. We have seen it, and now we get to read about it, and I can understand it because we get to see other judges do it. I'm not an attorney, as you all know. I'm hardly even a law nerd. There are many of you watching this that will know probably what's going on, but it's my understanding, no more than I will, but it's my understanding that we had a DA that's handpicked what to charge him with by actually looking at a calendar and saying, we're not going to charge you for a crime that occurred in 2009 or even the day after this legislation passed in 2008. Instead, we are only going to charge you for the crimes that happened before those dates because we want to give you the least amount of time as possible. They said that we're not going to go to trial because we're going to give you the least amount of time as possible. And then they even did not ask for the maximum allowed of 15 years, but they asked just for 10. And had another judge been on the bench, that could have been given. Had another judge been on the bench, it might have been run concurrently. But even with all of this being said, the victims are still in 9 years going to have to get up at a parole hearing. Now, at least Utah, the one thing I can salute you for is allowing the survivors to request this hearing and for allowing them to say everything they needed to say. And I hope that this is the beginning of reclaiming power, of reclaiming the strength. And I hope that others watching this are able to benefit from that and see good triumph over evil. And with that, I'll let you go.
Once Brett actually was put in prison, I felt I was able to breathe. But a part of me still fears that once again he will manipulate authorities and find a way out of his crimes. The longer he stays in prison, the more I will still feel safe to confront the past trauma. I finally am making some progress and finding that I've gained strength through surviving.
And try to educate a little bit more on his character. And I know I can. There's a lot I've been thinking about the last few weeks, but I have a hard time getting stuff done because of the fucking anxiety. That's all.